David Hertel in for Aaron and Natasha. Well, today, 80,000 Quebec nurses and healthcare workers began a 4-day strike. They're joining fellow public sector workers and teachers already on the picket lines. And our next guest is one of them. Jenny Rhee is head of the Nurses Union at the MUHC, which is affiliated with the FIC, Fédération Interprofessionnelle de la Santé du Québec. And she joins me now. Jenny, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Hertel.
So,
My
please,
pleasure.
David, please,
Oh.
please. So, Jenny, tell me, how are things today?
Well, things are going well. I mean, our people are outside. It was rough this morning with all the snow and wet rain,
Yeah.
but we're more determined than ever. I can't tell you the energy that we have. We're very, very blessed, and I'm biased, but I feel like I represent the best healthcare workers in the world.
Well, I no doubt I I understand you here, but Jenny, that is one of the questions that we keep hearing about is the resolve here after several weeks now, and the Legault government seems to be entrenched, and so you feel that the common front is holding, and not only holding, but it's actually very strong still.
We're holding very tough. In fact, our resolve is stronger than ever. I can honestly tell you this is round 3 for us, and we've joined the Common Front in the sense that our days are simultaneous. But yes, 100%, we cannot back down. We will not back down. Our demands are reasonable. We've asked the government to come to the negotiating table in good faith and negotiate with us. We put in, and Mr. Legault likes to argue that the unions are not responding, that we're not counter-offering. We made a counter-offer on Friday, sir, and we have yet to hear back from the government. These are things and details the public probably is not aware of. But we are very willing to talk, and we want to come back, and we want to negotiate something before the holidays. But that doesn't seem to be a priority for this government.
So to understand this clearly, so your negotiators at the table filed a new counteroffer on Friday, and you still have yet to hear a response from the government. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is correct.
And,
yes.
and I mean, I know you're not in the room. You have negotiators for that. But I mean, what is your sense? What do you think the Legault game plan is here? I mean, why is this stretching out? And there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency. I'm seeing this also in the French media. Like there doesn't seem to have that urgency to get a settlement. And some people are saying it's on the union side. Some people are saying the Legault side. What's your perspective on this?
My perspective, of course, is, and they'll accuse me of being one-sided, but my perspective is it's completely not in our interest to not negotiate and to settle. We've been asking for a settlement. What we noticed was that for a year, we saw very little movement at the negotiating table with the government. They were going back and forth and really harping on little minute details, but not willing to give us a fair offer in terms of remuneration. And for us, I would just like to remind the public that it's also about working conditions. We can no longer take care of the workload that we have. It's leaving us very exhausted, and many people are leaving. But nothing moved for a year. Once the strike started, and striking is, of course, our ultimate pressure tactic, that's when, nothing else is working. We go to that last resort. And all of a sudden, they were showing more willingness. And Sonia Lebel was saying, I'm going to offer more money. I'm going to do this. But when it comes down to it, here we are. Okay, they're closing, I believe, Parliament this week. After that, they're gone until January.
Oh, they finished up on Saturday morning. They're done.
Oh, yes,
they're done.
And they're pushing things through. They're done. And so I think for them, this is not a priority. But look at the province where we are right now. Education, healthcare. I mean, in terms of societal values, if your educators and your hospitals are in disarray, where are we as a society? It's terrible. Terrible. I can't fathom. But we did make an offer on Friday, and the big bugging point, I think, is remuneration. And I would like to point out that with the huge inflation that we suffered since COVID, even last year, 6%, and we're already down. They took away some of our premiums that we were getting since COVID, 3.5%. So if you look at us, we're already down -10. So any kind of 14%, it sounds amazing to some people. Oh, well, that's a good increase. That's fair. But for us, It's really not. It's not a gain at all.
When we hear the premier talk and Sonia LaBelle, they're talking about wanting and needing more flexibility from
Yes.
both you and the teachers. Are on the nurses side, are we still talking about issues that we were talking about during the pandemic, the forced overtime and all these issues? Is that still on the table? What does the government, can you give me an example of where they're saying you're not flexible? Because I haven't heard a real example of the government's position.
Well, the government, what they're wanting to do with the workforce is to use like a business model. And I understand Mr. Legault has a business background. But what they'd like us to do to be more efficient and to serve the population of Quebec, as they like to put it, is that they want us to be open to displacement. And I'm not talking, like in our collective agreement, one of the things that have always been kind of a standard non-negotiable clause for us is displacement. Meaning if I work at the MUHC and I work on a cancer unit, you can't just take me and put me in a pediatric ICU because that's not my specialty. It takes weeks and weeks of training for even nurses to become comfortable in one area or another. This being said, the government is not talking about moving us from, one ward to another. They're talking about one institution to another. Now, they like to soft track it to say, oh, but it'll be on a voluntary basis. We have no faith that it will be on a voluntary basis because the needs are in some areas, like in the far north and in the regional areas where they're really, I don't know if you heard, Maisonneuve-Rosemont, they had issues and their nurses had a sit-in, all kinds of things like that, where short staffing is a massive issue in some institutions. They want to take a nurse from the MUHC and move her to Maisonneuve-Rosemont. And I will tell you, sir, today, I've spoken to many of the people on our picket lines, and would you believe, and this is terrible, it makes me very sad to have to say this, but some of our healthcare workers are saying to me today they wouldn't mind a job at Starbucks. With all due respect to Starbucks, but they want something that is stress-free. They want something that is, more pleasant.
No, we know. The numbers are clear. I mean, I think it's close to 50% of the nurses leave the profession before age 35. I mean, it's ridiculous. On the flexibility front, I mean, there was one example, and I want your reaction to it. So a specialized nurse, as you described, but for example, if that nurse is willing to move, let's say, from Montreal to Laval and continues in the same field, that nurse would lose their seniority. Is that accurate?
No. Currently, before they pushed Bill 15, and they're pushing hard. We didn't have what's called réseau, ancienneté réseau. So if I was an employee at the MUHC and I resigned to go work, let's say, in the Laurentians, let's say I wanted to go to Saint Eustache Hospital, my seniority would start at 0.
Right.
Even though in theory we work for the government of Quebec, we're all public servants, because we were going from one hospital to another that was not affiliated, my seniority would go to 0. Now they're pushing the fact that I can maintain my seniority, and I can take, in my situation, I would be taking 35 years of seniority with me to whatever hospital I want to go to. And some people like that idea. Some of our members like that idea because I'll give you an example for myself. I could go to a hospital 5 minutes from my house versus fighting traffic to Montreal, as I've done for the past 35 years, and I could maintain my seniority, get my vacations, and it's that, but it's difficult because the risk I see to that, and what the government fails to understand, is that 60% of employees in Montreal do not live on the island of Montreal. So if we all chose to do something like that, it will empty your tertiary, quaternary hospitals that needs the most acute care. And that's a real risk.
I understand. My last question, Jenny, is about this issue that's been raised about the salary demands and saying, well, when you compare, we've heard this a lot, when you compare nurses' salaries or teachers' salaries, and I don't want you to talk to teachers, but nurses' salaries, when you compare it to, say, Toronto, well, we're less paid than Toronto nurses, but then you don't take into consideration the cost of living, which is less in Montreal than it is in Toronto. What's your position on that?
Our position is, it's true. We are one of the lowest paid in all of Canada.
Even with cost of living?
Yes, even with cost of living. Okay, so with if I was to compare apples to apples, you're right with cost of living. Now this government, and I remember I had a conversation with Aaron Rand, and he was talking about, but you're 530,000 people. We can't afford to pay everybody that much. I just would like something to be very clear. The last collective agreement that this government said to us, the nurses, they said, forget it, ladies. Not one penny more on the back of the taxpayers. Quebec cannot afford it. We voted with a slight majority to accept. And following that, he offered everyone a $15,000 bonus to do what? To sign up for full-time and to be subject to displacement. Two things that they wanted from day one. So when they tell us that there's no money, it's not true. Okay, we don't believe it. It's that he's choosing not to use the money for us. It's like Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois said. It's almost like he's telling us you don't deserve it.
It is a choice. It's definitely a choice. I agree with you. The money is there. It's it's the government that has to make the right choice here. Jenny, that's all the time I have. I really want to thank you for your time, for your service, and I wish you all the best in this fight.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate your time as well. Thank you.